Talk about adding insult to injury. There's a new migrant outrage after these cop-beating illegal immigrants gave America 2 middle fingers while walking free without bail and then used false names to flee to California. New York City is planning to dole out $53 million in prepaid credit cards to migrant families being housed in hotels. Rapper 50 Cent, is that how you say that? Says the prepaid cards might even motivate him to vote against Biden in 2024. He said this: maybe Trump is the answer. But Democratic Mayor Eric Adams says 50 Cent has got it all wrong. Watch here.
We have to recycle this money back into our local economy because we're spending this money anyway. These cards are going to go to bodegas, grocery stores, supermarkets. Local businesses are going to benefit. And it's focused on baby supplies and food. I told 50 Cent to hit me up. I would love to explain it to him so that he can go out and do another tweet of saying, you know what, Eric is just a smart manager. He may even write a song about me.
Meanwhile, Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg is insisting that he now wants to get those cop-beating migrants back from California this week. He will present evidence to a grand jury, but just 2 days ago, Bragg was defending their release.
While the video is shocking and disturbing, in order to secure convictions in a court of law, it is essential that we conclusively identify each defendant. In Manhattan, we do not tolerate or accept assaults on police officers. I watched the tape this week. Despicable behavior. It sickened me and outraged me.
I watched it first, but anyway, try that in a red state. A CNN anchor seemed to have been left speechless after being told that illegal immigrants don't steal in Florida because there they go to jail.
They were doing organized retail theft. They were doing snatches on the street. So what the detectives are telling me is they have crews here that operate in New York, do all their stealing, then go to Florida to spend the money and then come back. And I'm like, well, why don't they just stay and steal in Florida? And they said, because there you go to jail.
Oh.
All right, so there you have it. They were speechless, and they said, wow, amazing. I don't even know where to begin. Perhaps with the debit cards, $53 million, but it's going to save money, he says.
It's amazing how CNN is always shocked by reality, right? It's like, whoa!
Oh, amazing.
It goes back to that moment when Lemon and Cuomo were talking about crime, and they were at that, they go, we went out to dinner. We had a great time. There wasn't any crime in New York. They're eternally shocked. But this debit card fiasco is just another example of how Democrats and liberals do not understand the concept of incentives and disincentives. How do they miss this in life? That if you reward behavior, you get more of it. If you punish behavior, you get less of it. Do you think this is how they raise their kids? Your teenager breaks the law, and when he comes home, you give him a gift card to Nike? It doesn't make any sense in real life. And sending migrants back isn't even a disincentive in itself. That's an incentive because the messages just keep coming back. You know, you need a deeper hole. We need to look at other countries now and see what do they do. You have to make the punishment worse than just starting at zero. And I know that sounds harsh, but that's how it works. That's how you battle this corruption. And you also have to look at the bureaucracy. We've talked about this before. You know, if punishment is designed as putting someone in a situation that is worse than it was if they hadn't done the bad thing, we have to apply that to bureaucracy as well. And that means perhaps dismantling the whole system and starting over, because this is like insane. How do they do this?
Well, he tries to say that it would actually save the taxpayers money if you do this. I don't know. Governor Abbott of Texas had something to say about it. Here, watch him here.
It sounds like insanity is behind it because it really is offensive when you see police officers in New York City being beaten by illegal immigrants in this country who should not be in the country in the first place. And then after they engage in this crime against a law enforcement officer, they are let loose back out onto the streets. What's going on in New York is outrageous.
Judge, the DA says he now wants to bring them back.
Wow. Do you think he's been reading the press or getting a lot of phone calls? You know, first of all, this is a man who doesn't know anything about prosecuting crime. You've got a mob of illegals who gang assault police officers. They make arrests, and then the DA lets them out on bail. The DA initially chose to remain silent. Last week, we had someone with a microphone, I think it was a Fox person, and he just wouldn't answer the question as to why they were let out without any bail. Now, you may not know, I'm sure you know this, Dana, but the truth is it was a C-violent felony for which bail is allowed. Now, I don't take the judge off the hook for this either. The judge could have said, I want bail set in this case. What do you know about this individual and his ties to the community? That is the whole point of bail. And if there's anyone who shouldn't be, or who should be at least held to a higher standard, it's an illegal, because they have no ties to the community, no family, no residence, no job. So you assume they're going to flee, and indeed they did. So a couple days later, the DA comes out and he says, we don't tolerate assaulting police officers, but the reason we didn't ask for bail is because we have to make sure that we charge the right people with the right crime. Are you stupid, Alvin Bragg? You charge them with gang assault. That means that they are complicit. They're charged with aiding and abetting each other. And until you get to the bill of particulars, you don't have to yet identify who did what. And you may not even ever have to, as long as you could show that they were in a gang and they were complicit. And then he says, some of the most culpable may not have been identified yet. So then let me ask you a question, Mr. DA. Why did you arrest them in the first place if you're not sure that they could be charged with a Class C violent felony? Class C, I want to be clear about that. Are you saying that you didn't have the evidence, or you did? Because stop running around in circles. And it takes them 10 days to put this case in the grand jury. You have video cameras, you've got street cameras, you've got victims who were willing to testify. This case, if I were the DA, would have been in the grand jury the next day. The cops would have helped me out, we would have had it done. Shame on him. This is everybody pointing the finger. And now Mayor Adams says, we want to work with ICE. Mayor, don't give me that nonsense where you talk the talk. You want to work with ICE, you get the city council to change the section of law so that whenever there's an assault on a police officer or a gang assault, that they can call ICE. They're not saying ICE can't make an arrest.
Yeah, we can thank de Blasio for that.
Well, yeah,
right?
And for Adams for continuing with the nonsense.
Harold, you haven't been around the table in a little while, and we have missed you. I'm sure you are very happy to be back around the table.
I'm glad to be back around
weigh
the
in
table.
on this topic. Go ahead.
Thanks again. I agree with the judge with regard to how some of these judges have to help us to get around some of I really think the inequities of the cashless bail system. The ties to the community standard, the test that the judge speaks to, is the reason that any migrant who is charged with something, you should hold them until you find all of it, until the next step is required. Migrants are overrunning the city in many ways, not only New York, but Chicago as well. And the mayor, I understand where the mayor is coming from. I don't understand fully the plan. It's Fitty. And hopefully he gets Fitty on board with him, or at least reaches out even more. And the mayor's a friend, but I don't understand what we're going to accomplish with this, other than perhaps being more of a magnet and an incentive. Two, we got to change the law. Any violence inflicted upon a law enforcement officer in the city, there should be no bail, period. For whether you're a migrant or you are New Yorker, you're an American, whatever it may be, should not be the case here in New York that we allow anyone to inflict violence on a police officer, or for that matter, any law enforcement officer. Now, I come to just 30 seconds on this. I think that this deal that's been reached in the Senate, I've not read all of it. I know we talked about doing a dramatized reading here, perhaps outside of the show, of what the agreement was. But I do hope that Speaker Johnson will bring it to the floor for a vote in the House and allow normal process or regular orders, they call it, to take place. The Republicans have every right, because in the majority, to set the rules. Let amendments come to this. If there are things we don't like about it, you want a wall, I think I would support a wall if I were in the Congress. If there are things you don't like about the asylum reform process, let that take place, and then let it go back to the Senate, and let's get a negotiation going. Because what I don't want to have happen, we've talked about 200, 300, 350,000 people coming across the border, drug trafficking, human trafficking, all the other awful things that are coming across. I want to find a way to get to some conclusion here that we can all agree upon. We have to remember that Republicans have a majority in the House of 2 votes. Democrats only have a 1-vote majority in the Senate, and the president is Democrat. This is a divided government. So let's figure out a way to get to some sort of conclusion, because otherwise we're going to be having this exact same conversation about New York and Chicago, and for that matter, other cities across the country, and Denver across the country.
Jesse Waters, the floor is yours.
Well, I'll slay that beast at 8. You don't have to waste our time here, Harold, although I love you and it's good to have you back around the table. Jerry Nadler said the migrants were here to pick crops, but now they're kicking cops. How about that, Jerry? Now, Dana, when I look at this, I see now what you're allowed to do. You're allowed to break into the country. They give you a free bus ticket to New York. You could come here, you get a free hotel room, you get free cribbage, you get meals that are culturally appropriate, and then you could kick a cop in the head, get out of jail with no cash bail, and then skip town, drive drunk to California for a free sex change, and Democrats won't deport you.
And you get the free health care.
The free reassignment surgery. Juan can become Juanita. Doesn't matter. You have now created a situation where you are taking tax dollars from hardworking American families here and giving Amex debit cards to migrants. And it's not like an EBT card where you can't buy booze and cigs. You can buy booze and cigs with these Amex cards. Now, I would be insulted if this was happening. Now, that's why I live in New Jersey. I don't have to deal with this nonsense. POTUS hasn't even answered a question about this. These people are getting kicked in the head in Manhattan, and no one has asked him about this. No one's asked him about cash bail, sanctuary cities, criminal illegals. He's gone 3 years without having to answer on the border. Now, Trump would just kind of go to Marine One. He'd talk about whatever was hot that day. Even Barack would hold a press conference and field the question. How is it that this guy has gotten this far into the presidency and doesn't even have to answer for these policies? This is absolute insanity.
And we're going to talk more about his situation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.